So today we are very happy to have with us Dr. Fatou Cissé Kane, and she will be talking about innovating African language pedagogy and digital integration in European universities. Now I'll read her biography. Born in Senegal, Fatou Cissé Kane holds a doctorate in linguistics from the University of Cologne in Germany, more precisely from the Institute for African and Egyptological Studies. The subject of her thesis is the general description of Onian. Onian is a minority language spoken in the southeast of Senegal, in the regions of Kédougou and Tambacounda, and she has done a grammatical description, a study of possession, and the secret language spoken during initiation ceremonies. From 2017 to 2019, she participated in a project on tourism and migration on the island of Mallorca in Spain. This project was led by Professor Anne Stark from the University of Cologne, and on this project, her role was to describe the intimacy of the Senegalese living on this island. She joined the Institute for African Studies in November 2022 as an administrative assistant for the students, the teachers, and staff. And at the same time, she currently works as an independent Wolof lecturer. So we are really excited about your talk today. So the floor is yours, Dr. Fatou Cissé Kane.
Thank you so much. I share again my PowerPoint. Yeah, before I begin, the following presentation, as I said earlier, will be multilingual. I will speak in Wolof, and my colleague Katrina Mons will translate it to English. This is not due to lack of language knowledge, but an experience to start it. We started some years ago in order to give more space to African languages within academia. Don't be afraid, the Q&A session will be in English or French if you like. Ci atum ñaari junni ak fukk ak ñett bi ma njëkkee ñëw Allemagne te bankaas bu tuddu DAD xam ni dafa yombalal gëstukat yi nekk Afrique seen ñëw ci tugal ci lañu jàngaloon làkk wi di allemand ci diiru juróom benn weer yu tar balaa ñuy tàmbali njàng mi dañu natt ci la tàmbalee ci A1 ndax mësuma woon jàng allemand ci ñi ma bokkaloon di jàng amoon na xeet yu bari ñenn ñi ñu ngi bawoo Cameroun ñi Zimbabwe ñi Égypte ak man mi jóge Sénégal man maa ci nekkoon kuy wax kàllaamay français ak keneen ku jóge Cameroun ndax foofu ca Cameroun am na xaaj bu mag am na xaaj buy wax anglais ak français.
In 2013, when I came to Germany for the first time on a DAAD scholarship, we had to do a 6-month intensive German course. To do this, we first had to take a German level test. I started with the level A1 because I hadn't learned any German before. In our class, there were people of different nationalities, from Cameroon, Zimbabwe, Egypt, me from Senegal, and so on. I was the only one coming from a French-speaking country, apart from the men from Cameroon, even though Cameroon is part English and part French-speaking.
Moom laa doon làkkanteeg français waaye ak ñeneen ñi ci des dama daan jëfandikoo anglais ak li ma xamoon tuuti ci allemand. Sunu daan jàngalekat bi bu nu daan leeralal waat yi yenn saa daan jël làkku anglais wala lu néew mu jël français waaye lu ci ëpp ñi daan wax anglais danu daan bekk ndaxte anglais ak allemand danu bari waat yu nuroo.
With him, the Cameroonian man, I used French to communicate, whereas with the others, I used either English or the little German we then knew. During the lesson, the teacher tried to explain certain vocabulary to us, usually referring to English, rarely to French. Most of the time, my English-speaking colleagues managed very well because they felt there to be lots of word similarities between English and German.
Lu ëpp ci nit ñi fii ci Allemagne dañuy jëfandikoo anglais bu ñuy wax ak ñi fi wàlliyaan ba tax na njàngune yi ci daara yu kawe yi te bawoo ci réew yi wax anglais ñoom duñu jox gëdd njàngum allemand bi ndax ñoom dégg nañu anglais ba noppi. Loolu moo tax ma xar sama tànk tubéy ci njàngum allemand bi ndax français rek laa dégg. Allemand bi rek moo fi sësoon ngir ma mën di wax ak nit ñi. Li tax ma leen di nettali lii moo di dama leen di won njariñu jàng aw làkk ni mu amee solo. Waaye soo xoolee farate ji ñuy def ngir jàng aw làkk farata googu joxuñu ko làkk yi bawoo Afrique te foofu la jafe-jafe bi nekk. Réewu tugal yi ci ëpp wenn làkk kese lañu am. Te boo demee ci Afrique ñoom dañuy am làkk yu bari.
As people in Germany will easily switch to English when talking to foreigners, scholarship holders from English-speaking countries used to say that they didn't need to learn German because they speak English well, whereas I had to learn German at all costs, because being a French speaker, German was the only way I could communicate with people. The reason I'm telling you this is just to show you how important it is to learn a foreign language. This situation of learning a foreign language compared to learning an African language is where the problem lies, because of the following paradigm. European countries are mostly monolingual and African countries are very multilingual.
Soo demee Sénégal ci misaal danga soxla jàng wolof wala tukuleur wala joola yaakaaruma ko ndax su la neexee tànn français wala sax anglais te sunu saa Afrique bi su dikkee tugal amul meneen pexe lu dul jël làkku dëkk boobu.
If you go to Senegal, for example, do you need to learn Wolof or Tukuleur or Jola? Not necessarily, because you have the choice of choosing French or even perhaps English, whereas an African coming to Europe cannot make that choice. He or she must just know or learn the language of the host country.
Solos dégg làkk yu bari mooy génne taaru kàllaama yi te loolu balaa nu koy jëmmal ci daara yu kawe yi day am saa su ne làkk wu féete kaw yeneen làkk boole ci di leen noot. Looloo waral ku ci mel ni professeur Souleymane Bachir Diagne fësal ni tekki aw làkk ci weneen làkk mooy mën a tax ba làkk yépp tolloo dayoo. Foofu itam la ku ñuy wax Antoine Berman wax lii nii tekki aw làkk li ko war a meññi mooy ubbeeku jaxasoo diisoo ak wàcce sa bopp ba mën a xam dégg-dégg ñeneen ñi.
The richness of multilingualism is what illustrates the beauty of languages. And until this has become a lived reality in the academic world, there will always be a dominant language that takes control over the other ones. With regard to this, scholars such as Professor Souleymane Bachir Diagne opines that translation is the only way to help us solve this problem. In the same way, Antoine Berman states that the essence of translation is openness, dialogue, cross-fertilization, and decentering. It is either a connection or nothing at all. Antoine Berman later continues by saying that translation is to be seen as an experience.
Kàllaamay Afrique yi nag ci daara yu kawe yi nekk ci tugal dañu leen jàppee ay jëfandukaay dañuy ñàkk seeni ruu ndax dañu leen jàppee dong ay jëfandukaayu gëstu boole ci itam dañuy ñàkk seen dayoo ndax gëstukat yi dañu leen tënk si ñu des ci mbind rocci bépp solo bu ñu amoon solos nu leen di wax di yëgal ak a wàcce baat bi yaram wi di ko yëg man misaal laa ci ndax su may gëstu ci wolof dama ciy dem ba jeex xalaat bi leen rekk la mooy jëmmal solos làkk kàllaama yu bari te wone ni lu mën a nekk la sunu dee tekki làkk wi si weneen làkk loolu tax na dinañu mën a jox dayoo sunu làkk yi te bañ leen di yemale dong ci làkku jëfandukaayu gëstu lu ci mel ni ethnographie loolu mooy tax nu war a bàyyi xel kàllaama yi ak li leen wutale Johann Gottfried von Herder xamal nanu ni làkk wu ne dafa am rawaan wu koy jox li mu tollool làkk doomu aadama wu ne nit moo ko tax a jug ak fu mu mën a nekk ci àdduna bi di waxu professeur Souleymane Bachir Diagne.
Regarding the African languages in European universities, they are objects. They lose their values because they are transformed to mere research material. In addition, they lose their dynamic because researchers reduce them into simplified texts and freeze them outside of their context. This context being intonation, mimic, gestures, and so on. Take me as an example. As I present in Wolof, I perform at the same time. The idea is simply to make multilingualism a living reality and to show that it is indeed possible, with the help of translation, to present in African languages and to no longer consider them as simple ethnographic description and research objects. Instead, we need to pay more attention to languages and their differences. Johann Gottfried von Herder, for example, developed the idea that each language has its own genius that makes it equivalent. Each human language should be a relatively unique perspective on the human being and on the world and should be considered as such, to quote again Professor Souleymane Bachir Diagne.
ci jamono ji ñuy xool nan la ñu mënee teg jéego yu yees ba mën di jàngale làkku Afrique yi ci daara yu kawe yi fii ci tugal noonu lañu xamee itam ni làkku Afrique yi dañu leen jàngale ci daara yu kawe yi nekk Afrique duñu leen jàngale dafa mel ni daal sunu kàllaamay Afrique yi daara yu kawe yi jàppewuñu leen ay kàllaama looloo waral ñu war a tekkale ñaari yëf kàllaamay tugal ca Afrique ay làkk dëgg lañu ndax dañu fa leen di wax te aw làkk li koy jëmmal mooy ñu koy wax wuuteeg lool kàllaamay Afrique yi fii ci tugal xam ni ay jëfandukaay dong lañu la leen jàppee waaye jàppewuñu leen ay kàllaama yu ñu war a wax loolu tax na ba gëstukat yu bari joxuñu gëdd làkku Afrique yi.
We are talking about innovating African languages in European universities, and we should notice that many African languages are not taught in African universities. It seems that African languages in the academic field are not considered as languages. In this context, we need to differentiate two things. European languages in context to Africa are real languages because they are spoken, and the essence of a language is to be spoken. In opposite to African languages in European context, which are not considered as languages, but as material of research, and that is why many don't take African languages learning seriously.
Ci Afrique dañu war a xalaat yoon yi ñuy jaar ba sunu làkku Afrique yi bañ a des ginnaaw fexe ba mbaati di lëkkaloo seen biir ci fépp fu ñuy waxee yooyu làkk ba nga xam ni dina yombal coppiku yu bari ci askan wi dugal kàllaamay Afrique yi ci njàngu meek njàngale mi day am solo lool te day bokk ci jéego yi soppi Afrique Sénégal ci misaal ñu bari dañuy jël abajada français ngir bindu wolof ni ngeen ko gisee fii yenn saa mooluwaat yi du jub te noonu lañu koy bindee ci télé yi lu mel noonu bari na Sénégal ndax njàngunu ni ñuy bindee wolof bi su may jàngale wolof day jafe ci man njàngune yi di bindee ni ma leen koy jàngale ndax mbindu moomu duñu ko gis ci xarala yu yees yi moo tax lu ci ëpp ay film yu gàtt laa leen di won ci YouTube ndax jàng aw làkk dafa ànd ak ngay dégg lu bari ñuy wax làkk wi ñenn ñi dañuy nettali ci làkk wolof su ko defee ñu tekk ko ci suuf ci angale wala ci allemand loolu day tax ba yooyu nettali day méngoo ak sunu dundin.
Even in Africa, we must think first about how legitimization of African languages can contribute to cultural solidarity and unity across users of African languages, facilitating social change in Africa. The inclusion of African languages in the curriculum is essential to the process of transformation in Africa. In Senegal, for example, many took the French alphabet to write Wolof, as you can see on this slide. Sometimes they use wrong grammar or they don't use the articles correctly, as we can see, for example, on TV. This phenomenon is real in Senegal because of lack of Wolof writing system or writing skills. In my Wolof lessons, I find it difficult to teach learners to write Wolof properly because the script I'm teaching them isn't present in the networks and is very rarely used. That's why I'm using a lot of short films on YouTube, because to learn a language, you need to hear it more often. Someone narrates the story, and we use subtitles in English or German, for example. And here we can use African stories within our own realities.
waaye ba tey du ñuy jël yoon wi ñuy jàngale weneen làkk wu bokkul ak sunu wos ngir di jàngale lu bawoo ci biir réew mi loolu tax na ba day am ñuy am ci sunu mbaatit te doo ko fekk ci weneen mbaatit lu ci mel ni waat yu demee ni courant ak rajo amul ci wolof mi ngi mel ni rek su ma jëlee weneen làkk bëgg ko jox lu mu amul kon dama koy àbb ci weneen làkk ngir mën ko jëmmal wépp làkk am na ay waat yu mu àbbee ci weneen làkk moo xam làkk tugal yi la wala yi nekk Afrique ñu bari ci ñi may jàngal duñu ay malamiñ moo tax joxuñu solo lool grammaire ak waat yi làkk yi di àbb weneen làkk waaye nag su may jàngale ca université ba damay boole lépp grammaire ak wax ji.
But we're using a foreign way of teaching something local, and we also have the problem that certain things, regardless of culture, don't exist in the other. For example, in Wolof, words like electricity or radio are not existing. It is the same thing when I want to use the foreign language in a different context, because there are so many things which have no equivalent word. That's why we have to borrow some of these terms, to fit them in the language we are speaking. All languages contain borrowings, whether they are European or non-European. However, many participants in my classes do not have a linguistic background, and for them, grammar and questions of borrowing are less important. When I teach at my university, I still include both sides of language teaching, speaking, and grammar, but I adjust to my pupils.
dama leen di dawalal as tuut ci téereb Mariama Ba bi mu tuddee bataaxal bu guddee nii ngir wol leen ni aw làkk dañu koy dundal. Aysatu jot naa sa bataaxal fekk ma ci nattu ni ma lay tontoo mooy wettalikoo kaye bii lu ma xalaat def ci ndax yàgga deeyoog yow tax na ma xam ni waxtaan ay dund bi gor day giifal nakar. Aysatu sunu diggante dugu tànd la sunuy maam ajeloo wooni sàkket daan diisoo bés bu yàlla sàkk sunu yaay ya ku ca mësaana am rak yaak say moroom a koy xëccoo boot maag yow noo jàngandoo alxuraan daan ànd ca mbeddum xeer mooma ayoon lool ci dàll ak sër bëñ sax bu nu ko mësaana fokk nooy bokk pax munu koy suul te naan jinax am bëñ bu rafet te jox ñu bëñ bu ñaaw su at yi demee nim say naxsaay yit pàttaliku yi dara jógu fi ñoom lay bànneexoo ñoo tax sama àddina saf xorom.
I will read a small paragraph of Mariama Ba's book So Long a Letter in Wolof Bataaxal bu Guddee Nii to show you that language is also performance. Dear Aysatu, I have received your letter. By way of reply, I am beginning this diary, my prop in my distress. Our long association has taught me that confiding in others always pays. Your presence in my life is by no means fortuitous. Our grandmothers in their compounds were separated by a fence and would exchange messages daily. Our mothers used to argue over who would look after our uncles and aunts. As for us, we wore our wrappers and sandals on the same stony road to the Quranic school. We buried our milk teeth in the same holes and begged our fairy godmothers to restore them to us, more splendid than before. If over the years and passing through the realities of life, dreams die, I still keep intact my memories, the soul of remembrance.
nit ñi suñuy wax seen léppay wax la waaye itam dafa ànd ak yëngu-yëngu kiy wax di jox kiy déglu ba xam ni kiy déglu su bokkee ci weneen mbaatit itam dina xam nit ki li muy wax loolu moo tax dafay am solo di wone li nit ñi di def suñuy wax li ma leen bëgg a won fii mooy lu ci ëpp làkk wu nu bind ak làkk wu ñuy wax nekkul benn li nu bind du ñëpp ko mën a dawal te bu boobaa nit ki du ko jàppee aw làkk ci noonu la Ngugi wa Thiong'o wax ni li gën a am dayo ci sunu làkk yi duñu teew ci bërëbu jàngalekaay yi yu ñuy nooteem xel.
When people communicate, they perform. It's speaking, but it's also actions that speakers take towards the listeners. Even if the listeners are from different cultures, they do understand the message. That's why it's important to integrate or to show the performances to see what people do. Here, I also want to show you that in most African societies, the written and the spoken language are not one. As writing is preserved through the European languages, while the African languages are often limited to orality, there is a gap. What is on paper cannot be read to another person and cannot be received as that language which the recipient has grown up speaking. Indeed, the seminal text Decolonizing the Mind by Ngugi wa Thiong'o referenced the treasures of African language as absent in a classroom marked by psychological violence.
Li ma bëgg nu bàyyi ci xel mooy baax na ñuy xalaat na nan lañu war a def ba sunu kàllaama yi mën leen a dugal ci njàngum daara yu kawe yi fii ci tugal waaye loolu saa Afrique yi ñoo sa war a yanu sas wi dañu war a puus sunu njiit yi fu nu mën a nekk ñuy làkk seeni kàllaamay réew ñun itam gëstukat yi waruñu des ginnaaw ndax làkk wu ne mën nañu ko tekk ci meneen làkk kon nag foofu la sunu làkk yi di mën a méngoo ak jamono ba nu leen di jàngale ci daara yu kawe yi.
I want to emphasize that it's all very well to think about innovating with African languages in European universities, but it's we Africans who must be the first to take this initiative. We need to encourage our leaders to give speeches in national languages. We researchers have to do the same by presenting in our native languages and at the same time doing simultaneous translations. And that's where the innovation of African languages also in European universities will come in.
ca Sénégal am nañu fa kër guy fësal téere yu ñuy bind ci kàllaamay réew ma tudd EJO te ki ko jiite di Ndey Koddu Faal kër googu dafay am jafe-jafe ci wàllum koom ndax nguuru Sénégal du leen jàppale ci liggéey bi loolu day firndeel rek ni ngir ñu jox gëdd sunu kàllaama yi nguur gi moo ci war a am taxawaay bu mat sëkk ndax ñu leen di xoolee ni yeneen kàllaama yi.
In Senegal, the publishing house EJO, led by Ndeye Koddu Faal, has started to promote books written in the national languages. And yet, this publishing house has enormous financial difficulties because it receives no support from the Senegalese government. This is to show you that we need a real diplomatic policy regarding our national languages so that they really have the status of languages like any other language.
fi may jeexalee mooy jox leen ay ponk ngir won leen ci sama xalaat naka la nu mën a jëmmalee sunu làkk yi ci daara yu kawe yi nekk tugal ñi yëngu ci sunu làkk yi te nampuñu ko faaw ñu ànd ci di liggéey ak ñi ko namp ndax loolu day tax njàngu na yi am ci seen kanam kenn ku xam làkk wi ak mbaatit wi te loolu day tax nit ñi sawar di tiitaroo seeni làkk ñu yombalal sunu naataangoo yi bëgg a bokk ci ndaje yu mel nii ñuy wax ci seeni kàllaama ba pare di ko tekk ci meneen kàllaama xarala yi dina nekk jumtukaayu kàllaama yi mboor mi woy yi ak xam ni jamono june lu ci waay bëgg xam dina ko xam ci xarala yooyu mën nañu ci jàngale sunu làkk yi defaale ci ay po dugal ci ay vidéo ak kiy jàng di mën a dégg baat yi ba di ci mën a jaaral boppam ci loolu balaa at mee jeex dinaa génne benn site web boo xam ni dama ciy jàngale wolof te dina am kàllaamay wolof anglais allemand français ci sunu téléphone yi ñu yor mën nañu cee dugal ay application yoo xam ni fu waay mën a toll dina mën a jàng làkk saa su ne fu mu ko neexee ak fu mu mën a toll jox gëdd njàng mi ñuy jàng kàllaamay Afrique boole ci xamle dëgg-dëgg dundu nit ñi ak seeni mbàttit war nañu gën a fësal téere yi saa Afrique yi di bind ndax gis nañu ne téere yooyu lu ci ëpp ci ñoom dañu des ginnaaw mënuñu dugal kàllaamay Afrique yi ci daara yu kawe yi te jamono jooju gëstukat yu bari yu bawoo Afrique dañuy am jafe-jafe ci fësal téere yi ñuy bind te nekkul anglais.
Let me end by suggesting some practical aspects of how to innovate African language pedagogy and digital integration, not only in European universities. We first need to work in collaboration, as in co-teaching with African colleagues, because it is very important that students have in front someone who better understands the language and the culture, and it serves to increase the perceived value for speakers of these languages, promoting thus language maintenance and cultural pride. We need to encourage African colleagues to do presentations in their own languages through translation between languages. The internet as a platform can play a role in safeguarding these languages, as well as the history, their songs, etc., for future generations. But we also can think about digital inclusion through the creating of e-learning platforms, developing dedicated platforms where students can follow interactive courses with audio and video modules and practical exercises might help the learning of African languages. These platforms could include voice recognition tools to help with the pronunciation and oral comprehension of African languages. As an example, take the website I created to teach Wolof, based on German, French, and English, and that will be published by the end of the year.
Yeah, and as an example, it is a website that I mean, and here I have 4 languages: Wolof, French, English, and German. It will be soon, as we say, published in end of this year. In my opinion, sorry.
The design of mobile applications that enable flexible, autonomous learning with features such as discussions, educational games, quizzes, podcasts, and immersive videos can help as well. This would allow students to learn at their own pace while having access to authentic content such as cultural dialogues or traditional songs. We also need to enhance the practice and learning of African languages in real-life situations while promoting a better understanding of the associated cultures. We might want to open the way for progressive literature from Africa and the rest of the world to be taught in European and African universities. And when we are talking about language pedagogy, we think about books, publications in African languages, and we notice that African literature is in the background in European universities. I think this transformation is necessary because we cannot innovate African language pedagogy when African researchers have enormous difficulties publishing in their own language.
Ci sama xalaat daara yu kawe yi méngoowunu ak ni mbaatitu Afrique di doxee ci wax ak ci yoon kàllaama Afrique ak kàllaama yu am doole yu ci mel ni anglais, français, allemand, espagnol ñoo tolloo dayoo. Léegi nag kàllaama Afrique yi teguñu leen ay kàllaama ci wàllu wi waaye seen mbaax moo di ay jëfandukaay rek lañu. Afrique rek lañu xaj. Loolu tax na ba lim bu ndaw lañuy jël ci ñoom yu ci mel ni Xhosa, Afrikaans, Swahili, Hausa wala Wolof, Fulfulde wala Yoruba te moo ne de yooyu kàllaama téeméer boo jël ci làkk yi ñuy wax Afrique benn lañu ca.
In my opinion, the problem is that academia is still very colonial when it comes to African matters. Discourses and laws on language equality recognize the legitimacy of African languages on the same level as the so-called powerful ones like English, French, German, or Spanish. Yet, African languages are still not considered as languages in this context, but rather they remain exotic objects that are good just for research and linguistic descriptions. They are excluded from the scene, and in case they are remembered, only a very few popular ones are used, like Xhosa, Afrikaans, Swahili, Hausa, Wolof, Fulfulde, sometimes Yoruba. Meanwhile, they don't even present 1% of our African languages. This needs to change, and we all need to work on it.
And thank you for your attention. Jërëjëf ci déglu bi.
Thank you so much for this fascinating talk, Dr. Fatou. Now, I'll give the floor to Dr. Makoni to engage in a conversation with you.
Thank you very much for this fascinating multilingual presentation. I want to begin by asking you some very naive question. Right. The naive question is like this. How did it feel like to present in Wolof and somebody translating into English? Did it make you feel happy, enthusiastic? How does it emotionally feel like? Right.
Personally, I'm really happy to present in my own language. And I know it's a lot of work, but I'm proud to do this work to make other people happy and to listen my language and to listen how I perform, how I pronounce my language, and also, as I say, to give more place to an African language within academia, and so on are not very happening. Yeah.
Okay. So my next question then is, when you are presenting academic work in Wolof, right, and then subsequently it's translated into English or French, what are the challenges at a conceptual level? Are they concepts that you were presenting here, which you were articulating in Wolof, but when they have to be translated into English, had to be tweaked a bit? In other words, how does that work, for example? Because this is not just a question of moving from Wolof from Wolof into English. Is there a sense in which the discourses of language in Wolof are not compatible with the discourses of language in English?
Yeah, for me, it's in my point of view, it's not about compatible or not, but it's about to give more hospitality to languages. Yes, and also to show it's possible to do that, and why not to continue to do that? Yeah, for me, it's about hospitality. It's about openness. It's about to show people that the way I articulate when I'm speaking in Wolof, and for example, the way when I speak foreign languages, it's not the same. I'm free when I speak my Wolof. I'm free, and I am in my in French it's zone de confort. I'm comfortable with that because it's my own languages. Yeah.
Okay. So you are saying this. You are saying that when you are speaking in Wolof, you are intellectually performing what you know. But when you are moving into English, it's a different experience altogether. Right.
Yes. Right. Yes. It's a different experience. And so, and I want to pinpoint that when I make a presentation in English or French within the academia, people are waiting that I, for example, use to quote many, for example, researcher who, for example, I quote here Ngugi Wa Thiong'o and so on. but the problem is in my own languages. I cannot quote people's because these people are not known within the academia. It's only the problem I have, because it's not the people, because they within the academia, only people who educated are intellectual, can I say. And in my culture, there are many people, intellectuals, but they are not educated people. And these people, sometimes I have difficulties to bring it in my academic research. That's why it's for me a challenge. That's why I created this my website, and it's my place. It's my local that I perform, and I can give those people in my culture also a place to put their ideas, their philosophy, and so on.
This is interesting. I have no experience of presenting my academic work in my first language, but I just wonder, in actual fact, what personality I would be projecting if I were ever to present in my first language, but that's another story. Then my next question to you is this. What you talked about the teaching of Wolof in Germany. Okay, what about that is when it is being taught by Wolof speakers? Is Wolof also taught in Germany by German speakers? And what are the implications of that? When is the German speakers teaching Wolof to African speakers in German? Are there cases like that? Because what you have been talking about here is largely Wolof speakers teaching Germans Wolof. But what I'm interested in, does the opposite occur, where there are where there are speakers of German, for example, native speakers of German, who are teaching Wolof to Africans who speak different languages? Does that situation pedagogically occur?
Yeah, for me, as an example, in Vienna, I see a German who teach Swahili.
Okay.
But for me, the person who teach is not important in case the person understand really the culture and speak very well the language. Yeah, for me. But it will be better if a native speaker teach the language, because the native speaker can perform and can talk. Because sometimes people no native speaker who teach an African language, sometimes they can think, this thing is not relevant, it's not important. But maybe it's important for when an African lecturer teach the language. But it belongs to the hospitality of sharing, hospitality of language is openness. It's not closed only to native speaker, but it's open to all who want to take part to this culture, want to or to decide to speak the language.
Yeah, this is interesting, because the argument I want to make is slightly different from how you are framing it. The experience I have had at Penn State has been that some of the speakers of African languages have resisted teaching African languages. The argument that they've made to me and other people is that if they agree to teach the languages that are assigned to them as their native speakers, they are then treated not as professionals or not as professional linguists. They're treated only as people who are just good enough, let's say, to teach isiZulu. So in that case, it's an interesting paradox whereby the native speakers of African languages in those cases feel that when they are being given opportunities to teach African languages, they are being deprived of opportunities. They are no longer being treated as experts in, let's say, in linguistics or in physics, right? So it's like you can only teach Shona, you can only teach isiZulu, you can only teach Wolof, but you are not an expert in any other area, in any other content area. Right. So that's interesting. But I have a couple of more questions. Let me ask you the last one.
Yeah.
In your PhD, you said you studied a secret language. If this language was secret, how did you get access to it?
Yeah, thank you for this question. It's a secret because it's only speaking during the initiations.
Oh, okay.
But I have not a very big data about these secret languages.
Oh, okay.
But I travel, I think it's 2015, I go to Senegal, to Kédougou, and I want to make research on these secret languages. And the first people I meet, they said, no, you are a woman. You don't have access to here. And after that, someone told me, you need to go and ask with the old people. And these old people speak only Onyan. And at the day, I don't have no one who can make the translation to Onyan French or Onyan Wolof. And someone recommended me to another old people, but this man is in Moor, not in Kédougou, but he belongs to this Belian group. And I go back to Moor. I stay there 2 weeks, and I come. I spoke with the old man, and I asked him. I want to make research about secret language in Onyan during the initiative. No. I cannot do that. Okay, and I stay, and I realize I observe that the old man was sick. And every night, his son lived in this home, and I realized every night his son or his wife are cooking a food, and this food, the old man didn't like it. And everyone in this home are eating, and he didn't eat. And I go outside, I buy some fruits, and I bring it. But I do it normally, not to think about anything, because when I saw this old man, I remember to my father, and I come and give him the what I buy for him, and he say, "Oh, why you do that? You are a nice person." But this community are also Christ, and I'm Muslim. And the old man said to me, "Yeah, you are a nice person, and I think you will be a Christian, not a Muslim." I asked to him, it's all the same. And I return to my room, and the next day I do that. I do that twice, and after the old man said me, now we can talk about the secret languages. And it's the way that I got some little data about the secret languages. But the idea before I got is not to do that because I want something from him. I do naturally that because I see maybe he wants something else and the family are not able to do that. And I do. That's why I have some data about the secret languages.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. Let me hand over to Oski because I'm sure there are a lot of people who want to ask you. Some may want to talk to you in Wolof, others in French, others in English. Yes.
Okay. So I'll start with the chat box. We have a question from Chanel. First of all, she thanks you so much for the presentation. And then she says, in your last slide, you state that African language learning can be enhanced by an understanding of the associated culture. In your experience, do you find that African language learning courses or curricula is largely devoid of culture?
In my experience, when I teach, I teach at the same time the culture. Some aspects of the culture has hospitality, teranga in Wolof, and why we mean, and also about patriarchal, about also history of Senegal and so on. And if I'm not able to understand or to teach the culture, it will be really very difficult for me because the participants ask many questions about the culture because they want to understand the way of living of Senegalese people. And somehow, sometimes they compare it and here in Germany is here, why? Or somehow they ask and I explain, no, it's not logic because it's not because language or culture is not depend on logical thing. It's it's really open and everyone has his understanding about that. But we as native speaker, it's our culture, but somehow we have also some critical thinking about our own culture. But the most important is to know language teaching is also to know the culture because it's linked together.
Okay, thank you. And we have a question from Khadija or comment. Please go ahead. You might be muted.
Khadija,
Okay.
ton micro n'est pas ouvert.
Okay, maybe we can move on to other questions or comments. Oh,
She's
okay. She's reconnecting.
Sorry to everyone. I will just log out of the Zoom. Okay, I just wanted to say, to Fatou, congratulations. I'm beyond happy that you are here today as an African and a Senegalese woman. And I found that you are so brave and courageous to take your courses to Germany because I know how it can be challenging to do your study in a foreign language, in French, in English. So in Germany, it had to be very challenging. And so I have some question for you because in your presentation, you talk about Souleymane Bachir Diagne. I used to listen a lot to him, but somehow I'm not really okay with his view of translation because he always said like the future of language is translation. But for me, I really believe that somehow translating a language is betraying that language. In the case of Wolof, we can like just take a simple word like massa. Every time someone just told me something and I want to translate massa, I never really have the exact word for that because we use it for a lot of things. Like someone just tell you, oh, today it's hot. You will say, oh, massa. Oh, I lost my father. Oh, massa, I'm with you. Oh, I'm hurt. I hurt myself. Massa. So it's a lot of way to explain massa, but I never have the exact word. And you talk about, and I wanted to know how you as a professor that teach Wolof, what do you think about that, about translating and betraying the language? And you talk about not having enough representation of Wolof in Senegal, like in university and all. But sometimes I think that we forget that in Senegal, speaking local language is not like something we have to brag about. Like here in Europe, when you speak French and you speak German and you speak Spanish, is valuable. They will say, oh, okay, this person is polyglot. They speak a lot of language. It's fine. He's educated and all. But in Senegal, you will meet a person that speaks Wolof and Bambara and Pula and Serer, but it's just normal because it's our local language. But in another way, when this person speaks like French very well, he is maybe upon the normal wave of the population. And I don't know what you think about that. And yeah, that was the two questions I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Hadijatu. I think about translation, when we are talking about translation, it's really difficult to translate word to word. It depends on the context. The word that you take has massa. I can translate it in German, for example. Es tut mir leid. Yeah, it depends on the context. What do you mean? Massa or sorry in English, massa in French, désolé, massa. You need to see the context, but it's not to only translate. I need to translate the word in Wolof exactly in French or in English in German. It's not possible, but you need to look at the context and so how you can make this. And I think, yeah, it's your opinion, but for me, it is really important to translate, as I said at the beginning, because translation is a kind of hospitality, to be open to other language, to give, for example, language, the opportunity to be spoken, to be understand. It's my point of view. And your second comments, or what you say about, yes, it's right, but in Senegal, I can speak Wolof, and at the same time, I understand a little bit Pular or a little bit Jola. But if I only understand these local languages, somehow people think I'm not a bilingual or multilingual. If I understand or I can speak these local languages and I cannot speak French or I cannot speak English or European languages, it's like I'm not a real speaker, if I can explain that, because these languages are not considered as language. And if you look at the situation of Senegal, the people who are living with other culture, and it's not visible for us to think more about, yeah, it's important for me to understand Wolof, to understand or to speak Wolof, to speak Pular. because every culture has his own language and his own culture, and the other culture respect this. For example, when we are talking together, some people, I speak Wolof, and you speak, German, you understand only German, I understand only French or Wolof. When we are talking, we need to find a language that we connect us to speak. But in Senegal, for example, you can speak Wolof, I speak Pulaar. It didn't disturb us because we know I respect your language, it's your language, it's your culture, and also it's my point of view. Maybe I try to respond or to comment your opinion, but it's my point of view about this cohabitation of different languages or different culture. But in Senegal, we don't have this problem because for us, language is a language. And if I don't understand them, I don't care because it's only a language.
Okay, and then I'll now go back to the chat box. We have a question from Lara. She thanks you so much for the interesting, courageous, and multilingual presentation. And then she asks, in the preparation for this specific talk, what was the most interesting translation moment from Wolof to English? Can you tell us a little more about this particular translation process?
Yeah, and it's not about Wolof and English, it's about 3 languages. It's a translation. I write to Wolof, I bring it to French, and after that I move to English. I use 3 languages to make it possible. That's why at the beginning I said it's a lot of work, but I enjoy it. But I'm happy, I'm proud to perform or to speak Wolof, and also to, but it's 3 languages that I use.
Okay, thank you. Like, were there any particular concepts that you had to maybe like tackle with in translation from Wolof to French?
Yeah, as Khadija said, sometimes it's difficult to find the real words. But I used to, for example, when I translate Wolof to French or to English to French the first time, sometimes there are words I cannot find the equivalent, the exact equivalent, but I used to look at of the context in Wolof and to try to give like definitions. It's what fascinating when we are translating language, because no language has the exact or the precise translation in other languages. There are words we cannot translate it. We need to explain, to give the meaning, but we don't have this. It's for me what fascinating.
Okay, thank you. We have one more comment and question in the chat box. I'll read that to you, and then I'll move on to Selikoko, and he can like make his comments and ask his questions. We have a comment and question from Hela. She says, thank you very much for this inspiring multilingual presentation. I really appreciated how you highlighted both the emotional dimension of speaking and teaching in African languages and the structural challenges that still prevent them from being fully recognized in academia. I found it powerful how you connected translation, multilingualism, and digital platforms as possible ways forward. This resonates with me as an Egyptian scholar, where Arabic itself is often sidelined by English in academia, and minority languages like Nubian remain invisible. Your talk was a strong reminder that we as African researchers must take the lead in valuing and using our own languages in research and teaching. In your opinion, what practical steps do you think we can take as young researchers to start creating more space for our languages, even when institutional policies are restrictive?
I think within the academia, as I told this to my colleagues, Katina, yesterday, and I'm thinking, what will happen if I come or I want to present something and the organizer, no, only English? You need to impose that because it's your, when we didn't do that, no one can do that in our place. And somehow, many of the time, you are criticizing the academia, it's monolingual and so, and many colleagues teaching multilingualism, but this, it's only a concept. It's not present during the lessons because it's only, idea. We need to make it present, to make it a reality. And the first thing is only you want, or you say, I want to do that, I do that. And because me, the first time I try it, it's in Germany, and we have a colloquium, a seminar, and say, no, today I want to present in Wolof. And I have two colleagues who are lecture Swahili and Hausa. I told them, why sometimes you can try to present? And no, English. Okay, but me, if they don't do it, it's okay. But me, I want to try it, and I will continue to try it. You need motivation, and I know it's not easy somehow, because in the academia, only English, you need to know English. If you write, other languages, maybe it's not accepted for publishers, somehow, because the researcher found it, write something, and the publisher said, no, I cannot publish to this language. And I think we need to deconstruct this and try to do this. And also maybe because I'm teaching Wolof, and also this come because when I teach Wolof, it's also something positive, Wolof to German, and I learn more about German words within my language, Wolof language, because I teach German people Wolof. But at the same time, when I say something, no, it's correctly, it's that, and I keep this word, I have also benefit to that. That's why this multilingualism is for me a reality, because I have benefit for that on the one side, and also the participants also have something to my culture. It's like a exchange. It's like donner recevoir. You give something and you become at the same time something. But I don't have, for example, tools to say it's like you do that. You must first have this motivation and try to do that, as I say. But you need to be really motivated because it's a lot of work.
Okay, thank you. Now, Professor Salikoko, please go ahead.
Thank you, Professor Kane, for this brilliant presentation. Quite insightful indeed. I have about three minor questions I want to ask you. One is whether Wolof is your mother tongue, or whether it is another Senegalese language that is your mother tongue, or is it Wolof?
Yes, it's Wolof.
Is it urban Wolof or ethnic Wolof?
Urban Wolof.
Urban Wolof.
Yeah, do you mean?
Yeah. Do you ever try to? Yeah. Do you ever try to speak ethnic Wolof?
If I really understand you, urban Wolof, you mean Wolof spoken in Dakar?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I speak both.
You speak both?
Yes, but it depends. For example, when I visiting my family in the country,
yeah,
they speak Wolof, the real Wolof, because this Wolof has any contact with French.
Right.
Yeah, and if I also
no, go ahead.
And if I, for example, want to find words, real words, I contact them, because in Dakar, Wolof is mixed to French.
Yes.
And I don't want this Wolof.
And so the question is whether there are problems when you shift from Dakar Wolof to real Wolof. For me, both of them are real, but that's why I call it ethnic Wolof. Because they are, although they are related, they are kind of different languages.
It's a depend. For example, in my class,
yeah,
I use this real Wolof and this real writing Wolof, correct writing Wolof. I don't use Wolof spoken in Dakar or writing in social media with French alphabets.
Okay.
Yeah, but even if when I visit my family in the country, somehow I can also mix. They understand me, but they speak only this real Wolof. For me, yeah, it's not a problem. It depends, because in Dakar, when I speak this real Wolof, people told me, oh, this word is not speaking anymore. You are you come from the country, from the land.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, do you also speak Pulaar, because you mentioned it?
No. I mentioned it, but I understand some little words of Pulaar, but no.
Yeah, because my question was going to be whether the experience for you as a native Wolof speaker of speaking in French or German or English now is so different from the experience of you speaking another Senegalese language that is not Wolof.
Yeah, like Onion, when I make my PhD research.
Because this language is associated or embedded in its own ethnic culture. And there is variation among these ethnic cultures. So the question, maybe you have thought of it, I don't know, but I'm curious whether the experience of navigating between African languages is similar or so different from the experience of navigating between Wolof and a European language. If you abstract the factor of power.
Yeah, it's a very interesting questions. I noticed that when I was in Kedugu to make my PhD research, the family who are hosting me are speaking only Onyan, and I learn some words. But somehow when I speak, I'm not sure. And if I don't know the no, I miss it to Wolof or to French, or I borrow in Wolof words or French, and someone can translate and say, she want to mean this thing. Somehow it's not easy as I say, to switch to one language to other language, because every language has its particularities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I have a political question.
Okay.
So I'm from DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, and I think my experience is similar to yours regarding speaking European languages and the difficulty in Africa in implementing education in African languages, especially beyond the 3rd grade of elementary school. And the general excuse has been African languages are not developed yet because they are not well prepared to discuss chemistry, mathematics, and all those kinds of things. But my point has usually been, but it works the other way around too. If Africans were in power, we would say European languages are not really adequate to teach things specific, to discuss things specific to Africa, because there are concepts in African languages that don't exist in European languages. So, and the political dimension here is, if we were ruling the world, would we also be allowed to speak of European languages as not being developed enough?
In case of Senegal, because it depends what you understand, African language is developed. But as an example, in Senegal, Wolof is the most spoken language. People are speaking Wolof now because I think the population, when the population decided to say, we speak Wolof at the radio or TV, people are doing that. But now we have many information is given to Wolof and also to other local languages. In the government, most of the time speak more Wolof than French. And on the past, it's not happening. And so Senegalese are saying, our president is not speaking with us, but with French government, because most of Senegalese didn't understand French. Yeah. And I think the paradigm is changing, that people now speak their language. And if you look at the social media too, they write Wolof using French alphabets, because the thing is not to write French or to speak, but to speak Wolof or other languages. And I think now at the university, they criticize students that many students cannot speak perfectly French, because now the tendency is to use Wolof. But the representation is not seeing like, for example, in the administration when we are writing, but when we are speaking, Wolof is now more powerful than French in Senegal. But if, as you say, maybe if African languages were more powerful than European language, and will be, for example, in the future, real languages, because we are speaking them and also we are writing them, I think people can also learn other languages, because now multilingualism is a reality. Any culture or any country can only stay with its own language. It's not possible. We need to switch to one language to other language. And it's my point of view.
Well, it's an encouraging point of view. Actually, two things that I want to point out. Even among African languages, some African languages that are, I mean, urban varieties of African languages, as you said, they are considered superior to the ethnic varieties of the same languages. The lingua francas are better accepted than ethnic languages spoken in rural areas and so forth. That's a legacy of colonialism. And that's something that we really have to deal with. And now an anecdote, in 2024 spring, I remember that because I was in Paris, and President Faye of Senegal spoke to the Senegalese parliament in Wolof.
Yeah.
And the French were shocked that the president would use Wolof in the parliament. And this made it to TV5 Journal Afrique, where people were wondering, and the person commenting on this was an African, you know, an uncle woman. And she proudly was asking whether Wolof was going to become the official language of Senegal. And I was really shocked. You know, but this is a natural thing to do. It's one of those things where the president can select one of the most widely spoken languages in the country and address the citizenship, the citizenry, I'm sorry, the citizenry in that language. And of course, translation is needed for others, but at the same time, the president is reaching a wider audience than if when the president is using the European colonial language, so-called official language, to address the population. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now I have a question, and then we have two more questions in the chat box that I'll address before we move on to the unmoderated, unrecorded after party session. So I want to go back to language teaching. We have talked about it a little bit, but I was wondering about the overall student profile who takes like Wolof courses in Germany. What are the main motivations like behind learning Wolof? And you said that in European universities, African languages are treated as objects. So I was wondering, like, what practical steps do you take in your classroom to challenge that conceptualization?
Yeah. At the university, there are students who participate to my class, and most of them make research in Senegal or are Senegalese boyfriend, and they want to understand the language and to speak the language. Or somehow people want to visit Senegal too, and they want to speak some word or a little bit Wolof. There are some other participants. They are not students. They are German citizens, women most of the time, who are married with Senegalese people, and they have also children, and they want also to understand the language and also to speak the language when they travel to Senegal to speak with the family-in-law and so on. It's the groups that I have in my classes. And the other thing you talk about is can you remember me the second thing?
Yeah. So you said in your presentation that in European universities, African languages are treated as objects. So what practical steps do you take to challenge that conceptualization in your class?
In my class, as I say, I perform we speak the language and also we listen native speakers speaking the language, and also we try to understand more about the culture. We don't to make any interpretation, our own or subjective interpretation, but we want to understand why people are living like that. And we are not here to judge people or to say it's but we don't have any interpretation. And within the academia, many researchers make research about African languages, and they interpret the culture in a own perspective, different to this African perspective. That's why I say it's like an object, because it's a research material, but not a language. Yeah, it's a difference.
Just to add on to what Oski and what you are saying, can you clarify this for me? Do the students who come to your class already have German girlfriends, so they are learning Wolof, or they are learning Wolof in order to get Wolof girlfriends? So which one comes first there? Are they coming to class in order to learn Wolof, to get Wolof girlfriends, or they already have got Wolof girlfriends, so they are getting their relationship by learning Wolof?
Yes, they get first, and after they want to understand the language.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they want to understand not because, for example, if someone has a Wolof girlfriend, these people can maybe already speak German or English or another European English. But what they want, when they go to visit the country, they can communicate with these people in Senegal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wolof for romantic purposes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that is the real Wolof, I think.
Okay, now related to this, we have a question in the chat box from Sibusiso, and he asks if you can talk more about the exotization and commodification of African languages by the European or Eurocentric viewpoints.
But when, for example, within the academia, you are making research in African languages, some didn't want to learn the language or to understand the language. They take someone who speaks the language, who understands the culture, and they prepare what they want to know and ask this person. And somehow they try to separate it. They take only what interesting for him. Yeah, and to transform it in his perspective or view, and let it African view or African perspective, and trying you make research in an African language, but you write in a European language that these people are not understanding or are not speaking, and they never read what you write about them, and you keep it in a place who these people didn't have access to control. What are you writing? Do you write what I say to you, or do you write what you want to write? It's this kind of exotization. And it's many happening within the academia. Because African people, if you go to, for example, I can take my case. If when I went to Kedugu and make research, people are very happy that someone outside the community come and want to know more about the culture, more about the language. But they don't know what these people really want to do with their culture or their language. That's why I'm talking more about exotization and also about, because in this context, language is a research material. We use it. It's not like, yeah, to speak. It's not, and it will be dynamic. It is to be spoken, not to be keep it in text form, and also, yeah, that's why I'm talking about that.
Okay, so I'll just address Ian's comment and question, and then we'll move on to the after party because we are running out of time. And I see that Professor Ashraf has also a question, but if that's okay with you, you can address it in the after party session. So Ian says, first of all, thank you for this brave talk. And then he says, I'm wondering about your discussion of legitimizing African languages in the university. It reminds me of Dion Nicomo's talk 2 weeks ago and his call for the intellectualization of African languages. There seems to be a two-sided struggle to legitimize African languages in higher education, that is, normalizing African language use in universities and challenging what counts as intellectual or legitimate forms of discourse in universities. What do you think about this relationship between practices of legitimization, which are coupled with challenging the goal of what counts as legitimate discourse?
I think the legitimization will come first to us, to our dirigent, to our government, because as Professor Salikoko said that the President Faye speak Wolof in the parliament is something, yeah, to deconstruct this colonial view within African languages. But as I say, when we come to the academia, you are intellectual only if you can speak English or French or European languages. But if you only know African languages, you are not an intellectual. And I think, and what motivates me is I have some colleagues who have classes and, yeah, talk about, yeah, we need to decolonize academia and so on. How we decolonize academia when we are only standing, yeah, talking only in one language? I'm wondering, because I told you that at the beginning, when I come to Germany, I never learned German before. I learned here 6 months intensive German, and I come to the university, but I see, yeah, most of the time it's English. And what is that? This time I can save it to learn English and not German, because for me, at the university, it's the German universities. I think the hot language will be German, but not English. And when I move to, for example, take Wolof within the academia, for me, it's not about my point of view to intellectualize African languages, because my understanding is it's a language, nothing more. I don't want that people think, yeah, because I want to give Wolof the status has the same European languages, but for me, it's a language and I'm proud to speak in my mother language. And as I say, every language, I can be an intellectual if I really understand the language and I speak very well the language, I understand the culture, and at the same time, someone else cannot. For example, a colleague, I take example Katarina. I speak Wolof very well in the culture. I understand more. I can learn her more about my language than she can. She can do it also from German. I think everyone can see them about I'm intellectual in the language that I understand, that I speak, and I think it's like that, because it's a colonial view to say intellectuals are only Jews who are educated to European languages, but not to African languages. I think we need to deconstruct this point, this colonial view about African languages.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Fatou, for this intellectually stimulating talk, for offering us like the dialogue. Now I would like to give the floor to Professor Makone to just have concluding remarks.
Yeah.
Yes, what I just want to talk about is what is happening tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a presentation by one of the Nigerian film directors called Pete Edochie. We start at 9 o'clock till 11. Pete Edochie is well known for the role that he has played in developing and contributing to the development of Nollywood. So it will be very interesting to hear from him what we can learn about the development, decolonization of African languages from film stars who have managed to change how Africa is represented. What has tended to happen is the discussions have been amongst us, but now with people like Pete Edochie, we have already managed to make an impact on how we understand film and film production and African representations. It will be interesting to get to engage in a conversation with him. That will be part of a series of sessions that we are going to have on Nollywood. Right. Now we can go to a free-for-all session, and then